The Twilighters are gonna kill me. So I just finished reading Twilight, which you will have heard of if you are or have recently been in any kind of contact with a girl between the ages of 8 and 18. And I'm almost certain I'll be flamed in the comments, and it's entirely possible that I'll be slain in my sleep for posting this video. But Invisisis, I just wanted to express my thoughts about it to you so that you can decide whether or not you want to read it, and so that you can be somewhat prepared if you do. And I figured, why not do so in a public forum that's likely to incur upon me the wrath of tens of thousands of complete strangers? So here we go. Now, Invisisis, I'm not going to say I didn't enjoy it. I did. And I'm not going to say it wasn't well written. It was. But I am going to say I think it's in your best interest not to read it. And to explain why, I'm going to back up a little bit and quickly discuss my feelings about the portrayals of romantic relationships in books and movies and that sort of thing, and the effects such portrayals can have on the people who experience them. Invisisis, I think you've heard bits and pieces of my rants on the subject, but what I'm going to try to do here is sum them up clearly and succinctly. First of all, portrayals of romantic relationships are pretty hard to avoid. They're everywhere. They're in books, they're in movies, they're in songs, they're in magazines. They start at Disney movies and they go from there. And the way that romantic relationships are often depicted, especially in the types of media that are targeted towards girls, ultimately implies that romantic relationships are the only worthwhile source of purpose and validation in a girl's life. Intentionally or unintentionally, they end up sending the message that being liked by a boy is the only way to be truly happy. That it gives you a reason to get up in the morning, that everything else should be driven from your mind, and that really you're not a worthwhile human being unless you have at least one, and preferably many, boys romantically attracted to you. So because that's the message in so many of the stories girls are exposed to, they end up believing it, and then they go out into the world and behave accordingly. They are desperately in search of a boy who, by liking them or asking them out, will confirm that they are worthwhile in the way that they have been taught to view as most important. And this can end up making a girl miserable in a number of possible ways, either because she doesn't have a boyfriend and so she feels like she's not worthwhile, or because it pushes her into being in a relationship with a guy who she doesn't really like, or who treats her like garbage just because she's looking for that sense of validation that she's been told that she'll get from being in a relationship. So anyway, I don't think this is a very good way to approach romantic relationships. And that's the background I wanted to go into. Now let's talk about Twilight specifically. Like I said, it's a great book. I really enjoyed it. I couldn't stop reading it. You can tell that by the fact that I'm uploading this blog within 36 hours of my starting to read the book. But in some ways that's precisely the problem. Because Twilight, in addition to being incredibly compelling and impressively well written, is pretty much entirely focused on this girl's romantic relationship with this guy. Now I'm going to start talking about the story, and so there'll be some mild spoilers. I'm not actually going to talk about anything that happens in the plot, just some facts about the characters and their relationships. So if there's anyone out there who really wants to be surprised about how it's all going to go, then I advise you to stop watching now. But I hope you enjoyed the first part of this video and that you'll think about it as you're reading. I mean, look, this book is all about Bella and how she goes to a new school and she's not very excited about it. But first of all, inexplicably, a number of boys that she encounters seem to be incredibly attracted to her. And they're following her around and they're asking her to dances, and it's all the kind of attention that girls have been taught to crave. And then she sees Edward, and he is the most beautiful human being in existence. In fact, he's not even a human being. He's so beautiful that he surpasses the beauty that any human being can possibly possess. And at first he's inexplicably distant, but then eventually, inevitably, they fall in love. And this is not just any love story. This is a love story in which the girl's scent, that which makes her attractive to the boy, is overpowering to him. It inhibits his better judgment, it drives him to near homicidal madness, and it causes him to be willing to risk all sorts of terrible things because he just can't bear not to be in her presence. Now this is pretty much the most fantastic extreme of exactly the type of desire that girls are taught they're worthwhile if they can instill in a boy. And then there's Edward. Not only is he the most beautiful being that you could possibly conceive, he also has superhuman strength, and he's supernaturally sensitive and attuned to people's emotions. He can read minds, he knows people's thoughts. Of course, he doesn't know Bella's thoughts, but he's exceedingly interested in the minutest details of her life and her interests and her wishes, and it completely consumes Bella. It takes over her life. She can't think about anything else. Her classes are a blur. She doesn't care anymore where she's living or what she's doing as long as he's there. It serves to reinforce all of those things that I was talking about earlier. The idea that it's possible for a romantic relationship to make you happy. The The idea that a girl's best dream is to be liked by all the boys in school. And it uses all the hormonal and chemical and psychological triggers that biology has given us to propel forwards the survival of the species, to hook us to the story so that we just can't put it down. And despite all the trouble she gets into, Bella's life is exciting and it's adventurous and it's appealing. And because the book is so well written, we come through the story wanting more than anything else what Bella has. But even if there were superhumanly beautiful and strong and sensitive vampires, there aren't enough to go around. Not everyone can have one, but everyone's going to be looking for one now that they've read this book, because this book was so engaging and amazing. You still want to be in it, and the only way to be in it is to go and find yourself a romantic relationship just like this. So I don't know. Twilighters, I'm sure you're gonna hate this. And Invisisis, I know all your friends are gonna have read the book and you probably want to be able to talk to them about it. And I don't think it's an evil book because it's about romantic relationships or even because it has vampires. What I'm trying to say is that reading this book will plant in your mind the beliefs that the best way to be happy is to find a boy like Edward Cullen, and that that's possible, and that that's what you should do, and that you should totally ignore your schoolwork and everything else that's going on in your life in order to find it, and that you won't be happy without it, and that you're not a worthwhile person without it. And sisters, here's something that you probably don't know about me, but all of this is something that I really have struggled with in my life and even still continue to struggle with. Even though I'm 23 years old and I'm totally conscious of it and I know exactly where it comes from and I totally hate it, still I can't quite rid myself of the sense that the only way I'll be truly happy is through a romantic relationship, and that nothing else I do can assure my worth as a person. And I've dealt with this all my life. Luckily, I've had enough opposing influences so that I'm able to walk around without pleading on my hands and knees for every boy I meet to express some romantic interest in me. But still, it's caused me a lot of pain and a lot of frustration, and I wish I didn't have to live with that. And I think I wouldn't if I hadn't been exposed to so many books and movies that had taught me that that was the way I should think. So anyway, that's what I have to say on the subject. And Invisisis, I hope in some way it helps you to decide what you want to do. I'm gonna leave it up to you. Read the book, don't read the book. But if you do read it, maybe having all of this in the back of your mind will help you keep the book from getting into those parts of your mind where it's just gonna cause you grief and pain later on. I love you, sisters.